but I do start with a prayer that was given to me by grandmother Nakai. And it begins by Grandfather Chief above the heavenly stars, hear our humble prayer, O Great One. You are the giver of life and everything that comes with it. I'm but a small blade of grass in the vastness of Mother Earth. I ask for your guidance and clearness of vision so I can see the beauty that you have created for us. Bless my hands, O Great One, so I, as your instrument, can do your work on the face of Mother Earth. Grandfather, let all the seeds unite in this circle of prayer, and let us all speak as one once again. Aho.
Aho.
So I always bring that prayer up. It was given to me when she passed the medicine, and it is a universal prayer, and I give it out so that people can also make their connection with the universe and use it in the way and think about we are but a small blade of grass. And when we recognize that, it brings things forward to us that I think our experience is why are we connecting to this universe like we are at this time. And there are just so many things that are opening up. You talk about the gene keys. I talk about the strands of the DNA to the universe. One of the things in the past 3 years that I have been doing is to bring back the triangles on the earth, because that is where the masters come in and out of. And they had been disturbed. And 3 years ago, I went to Australia to the Wall of Hands and put my hands back on my own imprints from many lifetimes ago, and it opened the records up for me to read. And so being a record keeper and a dreamer, it's hand in hand for us to go. So I traveled that year to many places, Florida, up in Canada, New York, up in New York, to put these places back in order so that we can connect and have a better connection with the masters and the universe. And so the medicine hoop of life is that universal teaching tool that has been given, that when we do ceremony twice a year, the spiral of energy that comes from it goes out and comes forth. And so I hold the energy for the eastern door. And in holding that energy, we all have to come back to the eastern door to begin again. And this is the imbalance that we're seeing on the earth with many things. And I think that we're all striving to connect with the universal beings, that higher power, so that we can bring this order back. And it goes back to protocol and spiritual law that we have broken. And so by starting the school here is to bring back that protocol and spiritual law that we all need to connect with again. And so we're finding our way. So I say we connected because you heard my prayers. And the prayers have been going on 16, 17 years here. And it's been done very quietly and done so that I'm trying to call back others here to help support it, because I can't do it by myself. So, the swan is a very important part of this. When I went out with the Lakota, the swan comes in disguise of the white buffalo. And the white buffalo is a big part of the spirit of bringing back to Mother Earth our connection. And I think that the swan is very strong. It holds its ground. It's very protective and loyal to the people, and is very consistent, if you know swan. So it's something that we put out. My culture part of it, my mother is Japanese, so I'm a high priestess of the Buddha Shinto, and we come from a long lineage of the last samurai. And so the two figures there are the butterfly and the dragon. And so at this time, The dragon comes in disguise also, because it is the keeper of the last 4 gateways that we have to go through for part of our initiation if we don't want to come back to Earth again. So when we've come to a spiritual point, we go through the fasting and what we need to, so that we go through those gateways. And the gateways are either you live or you die. So when you make up your mind to go do it, you have to know what you're doing and where you are at. And I did that 20 years ago. And in it, there's opportunities to go back into the universe and do a lot of things that you wouldn't be capable of doing. So, our walk on Earth are those gateways that we have to walk through and to be part of, to understand why we've come back. And so the other part is I'm Abenaki, Scottish, and Irish, and the native part of me from my grandfolks and my father. The Abenaki people here in the Northeast were very prevalent at one time, and then lost with the taintedness of the blankets and such stuff that was given. And so where my grandfather lived up in the Canton Point area, there used to be 7,000 to 10,000 that were encamped there. And when it was done, there was none left there. What few that were there hid. And so our lineage to Canton Mountain and to the points there is very strong in the lineage of walking the native way. The Scottish Irish point, I haven't gone back to that yet, but it's there. And that's the next part of coming probably to Scotland, to those areas, to what I call mapping. The grandmother taught me 20 years ago, it's been 20 years ago, the first thing she started with mapping. It's where you were born, where you have lived, and where you will visit. And when you put those on a map and you start pinning them out, and then you take the pins out, you flip the map over and put it to the light, you'll see where you came from, the constellation. And it gives you a better strength and idea of what you're working towards and why you came back. So those are some of the points that I see in this that strongly at this time. And now, as the Earth, we're seeing the outcome of the virus, and it has been predicted a long time ago in the prophecy that these things would come forward if we didn't take care of the Earth. Now we're in the forceful part that showed me 5 stages. We're in the 2nd stage, and we will be seeing the worst coming, because people are not listening, they aren't thinking. And so our connection back to the mother and start using her in the way she should be, out of respect and honor. That's spiritual law. And we're going to see that unfold here in the future. And, we can prepare, like they're showing many things, but what is a virus? There is no cure for a virus. And that's the way it was put, because of our treatments and the way we walk this earth. And so there's a lot out here unfolding at this time. My feeling is we have to go back into our first altar of life, our heart. And I said a long time ago, because I work with families, a family, when you can come into their home, which they invite you in to talk with them and stuff, and you see that the dining room table is just piles and not utilized in the way, proper manner that it should be, or topped. And I think that I said then our second altar from my grandmother and my mother was taught was our kitchen table where we eat. That is an altar. And people don't see it as that way today because they maybe haven't been taught or they've forgotten. And so going in and reestablishing the first phase of this is people have had to stay home, cook meals, sit at the table. So Creator is showing them, sit at your altar, your second altar of life. Bring your children there. Bring them back to what we have been shown in the past, that it's our first circle of life, that we speak to one another. We come in that circle. What are we going to bring? You know, we can bring harshness, unhealedness. We can bring many things. But to me, it's about, as a mother, nourishing, as a grandmother, nourishing, bringing some happiness, some joy, even if it's for a moment. We need to come back and find the peace and know the respect. And I think that a lot of kids don't even know how to set a table. That is really disturbing to me, because if we don't learn these things in our first part of our life at home, where are we going to learn them? We usually don't. We lose that unless we find somebody that sits us down and teaches us parts of ourselves that we need to learn again. And so we've gone through the second part. We've had to stay home. We're starting to nourish ourselves, not run out here to everywhere to get our nourishment. Our nourishment is in our home. But people have forgotten the honor and respect of having that. So we bring our house back in order. And it's up to the grandmothers and mothers to do this, because if we don't, how are they going to learn? How are the children? And we're seeing the fallout from that. We want to educate them so much, but most of them don't know how to do their laundry. They don't know how to cook a meal. They don't know how to sit at a table. And so we're seeing the fallout now. So in the next part of it, it's pulling it back again, because they haven't got it the first time. The second time's coming up, and there'll be 5 in all. So where do the people want to follow through? It's about bringing ceremony. Ceremony is sitting at your table, saying the blessing, giving thanks for the blessing. We've forgotten that. So by going back and, helping people to remember, because the one thing that grandmother taught me, I'm not here to teach you. I'm here to help you remember. So all people that come, I tell them, I'm not here to teach you. I'm here to help you remember. Just like her, and things will start coming up. It's just like having the talk today. There'll be one thing at least that you will remember. And in it, it will be a very big point in your consciousness that will come forward. And to me, the medicine hoop of life is that part, because it doesn't just stop after ceremony. Every day is a ceremony for me, because there has to be prayers made. It's like getting up this morning and knowing we're having this. So I turned my pipe, and it's an 800-year-old bundle that was given back that I had before. So I'm bringing it back to bring the sacredness and the honor and respect to the people, and hoping that the healing, hoping that if it's a figure that we identify as an animal within ourselves, that we find that and we start working with it and remembering, if that's who we was, what are we doing? How are we doing it? What are we going to do with it once we get the knowledge? And I think this is where a lot with the Native people, people haven't understood that we walk in such a sacred way if we learn. We go to the altar of life to bring ourselves. That last fast that I went over 20 years ago to go through the gateways of the dragon was more than that to me, because it brought me back to my ancestors. And when I went through and got there, all the ancestors of all these hundreds of years were there to greet me, and was so happy that I could make it and come back again to begin. And so, we all are looking for that part within ourselves and with humanness. whether we find it in our genes. It was like reading an article last night because of Hiroshima and Nagasaki. My mother was a child. What the fallout has been, what has been learned from it, what has been the effect from it. For myself, it's autoimmune that we've got. And how do we work with that? How do we change ourselves to fit that to heal? And to heal is to feel again. And so first we have to go back to prayer. And in our prayers, I talk to Creator like I would talk to anybody. I'm having not such a good day. How can you help me? And what is it that I'm not seeing? What is it that whatever? And the past week has been that. It's been a disturbance in energy, a disturbance in people. And it's like, I don't think it's all me. And so going back and turning pipe is, okay, free myself up of the cloud and the negative and let me see clearly through so that I can come to it and focus on it for prayer of healing. And so we find that way. We've been given all the tools. We've been given all these teachings. Why aren't we doing that? And this is what, and when she told me I would be starting here with the Rose and the Swan, healing healers, and it was like, what? And she said, Creator chose you for this. I didn't. He did. And this is what you're going to walk towards and open up for the people because it's so needed. I look at healers in many ways, but a lot of them that come, they're doing 4 or 5 modalities of things when they haven't even got one completed. And then they become confused and entwined. And that's why, they think they're healing people when they're adding a twist to the whole part of it that needs to be uncoiled and opened up. And they're not seeing that part. Are they ready for it? Are they not ready for it? We're opening that doorway to that part so that we can bring better understanding. I'm not here to judge anybody. I'm here to help them so they don't hinder themselves. And I think that's the most important thing. The responsibility of beginning here, starting it, and, it's the turtle. You go slow, you don't go fast. There's 28 pieces of structure on that turtle that you have to go through. There's a lot more to look at if people bring themselves down and through that. And I think that's what we're doing as humans. We're trying to navigate and clear out to see where we really want to be. And, in shamanism, in our native walk, the similarities, because the one thing that I had a hard time with is someone calling me a shaman. I'm not a shaman. And then only to find out 2 years ago, I'm a high priest of the Buddhist Shinto. I'm a shaman. And I had to laugh at myself because it was like, why are you so I don't know. It's just the way my walk, and I have to learn it. And when we have those gifts and abilities to tap in, and we all have them, but we have been confused with a lot of them. And I think mixing them up like we have, because Grandmother Spider has woven our web of fate, and it's so clear. But we disturb those fine fibers and twist them or break them and do instead of following what we should in harmony and peace. And I think that is the part that I think people are trying to find a peaceful way in their walk, but they don't know what the ingredients are, how to get there. And, this is the time of my walk that, in my age and what I'm walking towards. And I tell people, we earn the title of grandmother and elder. It isn't just given to us. It's how we walk it, how we live it each and every day. And, I started at 42 with that and was given that. But it means responsibility that you're given. And I think our responsibility now is, learning these things, understanding these things, um, drawing them into us, asking Creator to bring them down to us. The Mother Earth, what are we going to give back if we're given? A lot of people don't think that. There is that balance, and we have to. If we don't, we're seeing the earth why it is, because there's a lot of greedy people out here, and they don't want to share. Why? I look in areas up here, it isn't a second house, it's their fourth or fifth house. What would you do with all that? And I just look, and it isn't my business, but I'm thinking, boy, that could really help a lot of homeless people. This could help people that really could use it. And there maybe come once a year. I don't get what has human beings done to each other, that they don't put thought to that. And, in the prophecy of change, it has shown that we're going into the fifth world. We're going to learn one more time because we didn't listen the last 4 times. And it isn't going to be pretty. It isn't going to be pleasant. And where our preparation is if we know how to live off this earth, like in the old way that we did, we hunted, we fished, and we just didn't take. We asked that animal to give up its life for us to sustain our family. And this is what a lot of people out here don't understand. If we've had overabundance here of ticks, why? They're blood sucking. They're sucking off us. But the 3 things the grandmother showed years ago was the mosquito, the tick, and parasites are the things that are going to get us. Parasites through anything, including our water, which is a very powerful part of ourselves. The tick is going to take the blood, and what is it going to give back? The mosquito, the same way. Suck the blood out, what is it going to leave us with? And so those 3 things are here. Now in Boston and some big places now, they're having an overpopulation of rats. It was shown weeks ago. Why? Well, what has been the disturbance? When you look back in history, bubonic plague, what happened? The rats overtook things because we weren't clean. We didn't keep things cleaned up. And then they came in after us. So what do? A lot of people would say, well, you can't kill them. Well, what are you going to do with them? Because in the United States, when the first ships came over, the Mayflower and Night, we never had rats until the ships came. They brought the rats to us. So when you go back in history and see some of these things and go over them, yes, they're disturbing, but the disturbing part is human beings still haven't gotten it. We have to change. We have to clean up. My grandmother always said, there's bleach and soap. Why aren't people using them? And, it was her way to say, go home and clean up. You need to clean up. And so I see a lot of places that need cleaning up. People have taken advantage. People aren't taking care of things. They expect everybody else to do it but themselves. Well, in our way, we walk side by side. We don't go one above the other. We walk together. If we're going to clean, we'll clean together. We're going to do medicine, we do medicine together. Because what is a medicine person if they don't have the people coming? Because they can't see and figure some of the things out. The medicine is many, many, many ways and avenues in. But we have to find that. And how does that come? There's a whole different way and lineage of thinking from the medicine. And I've got 4 cultures within myself that are very strong. And she said, you were given that to come back because you've got to be strong for the medicine, this walk, and bringing it forward. And so, in times ahead, there's going to be travel. I'm hoping to come over there to England to do teachings. I would love to. There is one reason for my past life was White Eagle. And White Eagle was taken. He was a Lakota with 200 people, and they were sent to England to be enslaved. And so the spirit of him is there waiting. There's teachings there waiting. And it goes so deep into it. But part of my journey with the mapping is going back to all these places to recover things and make them right again. Not only for myself, for the people, because when we disturb things and we take things and we do things that are against spiritual law, we have to make them right. And it may take many lifetimes of our soul to get there. But this time it's showing people the mapping and how they can go back and why they're going back. That's some of the teaching that we need to understand, and why we're drawn to certain areas. Where have we been with it? What have we been doing with it? Why are you where you are? Why are you drawing upon the universe in the way you are? The one thing here is I have always read, I see your books, and I have hundreds of books from the time I was young that I still carry. And to me, I want to know other people's opinions, and I read. And I don't give up on things until I find those answers. And so we have a library connection here that is going to be very big and to be shared. And, a lot of spiritual, metaphysical, native, you name it, and it's here. One of the good things about you and working with the animals, I don't know if you've read the Gear books, Michael Gear and Kathleen Gear, and they're called the People books. That is something that would be very beneficial in reading, because they have written in detail many things across the nation here of the Native Americans that is very benefit in showing the good as well as the bad in the medicine. And, the one thing in learning medicine, you do have to learn the bad medicine to find the antidote. And that is a lot of your work, is finding antidotes for things and people. Well, walking in balance is the hardest thing we can learn on this earth. We have to have the good with the bad, the unpleasant, but usually the unpleasant is making us work towards something that we wouldn't want to work towards emotionally, mentally, physically, or spiritually. And in that walk of those four things, we have to, I always start at the beginning of the medicine who. What are we learning for truth? What is it teaching us, knowing, learning, serving, seeing, hearing, feeling, thanking, loving? Those things, when we're learning our walk, isn't pleasant, because we're usually, if we are looking at those difficulties and emotions in our life from our trauma of our families and ancestors, well, we look 7 generations back, because that's where it started. And if we're starting our walk, then it's going to take 7 generations in front of us to clear it. So if we begin for our children and our grandchildren, there's a start. And some of the issues that we have to face are not easy, but they've been a struggle for many generations because it wasn't talked about. We close it off. So we internalize it. Then our subconscious gets in there, and then we go through, I call the rata-rata-roo within ourselves, and we're beating ourselves up. So when I have found the tools of prayer, prayer is the strongest thing that we could ever do to change our life, change the way. But be careful of how you pray, what you pray for, because Creator isn't going to change some of this thing unless you mean it from your heart. If we can come from our heart and change those things that we're really willing to work on, because we all have things hidden in a closet. Every one of us, until we open that door and start cleaning the webs out. The one thing that I learned in hospice is most of those people had a secret. And I looked at some of them like, really? That you would internalize that to get that? But it was the piece of coming to that and facing it and then going. Once we completed, we go. So when we complete our work here, we're going to go. It doesn't matter age. It doesn't matter. We came here for a certain amount of time to get things done. And through that, we have to work through our heart, not our head, our heart. If we feel it, we know it already. We can't hide it. We can't put it under the rug. We have to face it. And that's the hardest thing as humans. I go above into the universe to a universal group, and I just look at that. And as humans down here, we're really behind. And I had to laugh the first time I went in that circle, because it's like, boy, I never thought that, the spirits could look or be or whatever. And I happened to be steering one that looked like the Beauty and the Beast. And I'm thinking, oh my gosh. And he turns around and smiles at me. And it was like, oh my gosh, telepathy. He's reading everything I'm thinking. What was my mind? But as humans, we don't think of how in telepathy that we're crossing each other each and every day. We might not say it, but we're bringing that vibe out there and everybody's getting it. So why be afraid to speak your truth? If you do anything on this earth, is speak your truth, but remember how you deliver it. There is a bad way and a kind way. I say be kind, because there's more karma that comes behind it if you don't. So if you really want to go within yourself and change those things, then go into your heart. But prayer is the biggest thing that we can all go back to. If I pray, I tell everybody, because our medicine, when we're beating, every beat is a prayer. So you get in, and they said, how can you go over? No, it's a vibration you get into, and you can feel it moving. And so prayer is like that to me. I tell it's like the drum, when you're hearing the drums for the first time. It's going into the dance of the circle for the first time. There's a whole different life out here, a vibration that we've forgotten as humans. And that's why it's so unsettling out here. Why does someone have to go hungry and someone has so much food they don't know what to do with? Why wouldn't you share? Why wouldn't you take time? When I meet people, I see certain ones, the first thing grandmother told me, be a hawk, not a crow. A hawk doesn't miss anything. A crow is running, and they don't stop to even see that the hawk is coming in. So the hawk, if you learn to be a hawk, your sonar goes out there and you learn that process and you're quiet, you can go through anything. So how do you work with human beings? You go through all this that they've put in front of you to get to the center. We don't have time to go through some of the things that we've been going through with healing and stuff. We need to get to the point, get it done, and get moving here. And the school is going to be part of this, is connecting with that, getting into it and moving, because we don't have a lot of time left. Part of the prophecy that was given to me, we have another year to get some things corrected. And if we don't know what might happen. So it's working towards that. And, that prophecy was given to me with the petroglyphs as well as grandmother 25 years before we met. And so it's very clear on how it's going to come forward. And only the people can change it if they want to change. So this is what we're going to. If I was going to leave anything to the human race, pray. That's the best thing. When the sun rises in the morning, we pray. When the sun sets, we pray. We're opening and we're closing. And then we go to dream time. We'll go to our ancestors in the medicine, the bear of the West. And so by connecting with those and learning those, there's a lot there we can open up in the doorways. But we've got to be ready. We've got to be predictable in it and make it consistent. And that's hard for people today. They get bored with it and they'll stop it. And they stop their own growth. And, in our native way, the consistency of how we work is how we become. And it's a long walk. It's all of our life. When we picked up the medicine, we made the obligation of giving ourselves to the people. Our life isn't ours, it's the people. And so this is how I work each and every day to the people. The prayers are being heard between us. There is a reason why we're connecting, because I know I'm going there. And, for you to come ahead, we call it the warriors have come ahead. They have to watch over us. When one of the things when we're traveling our position and stuff, I was always supposed to have a warrior with me. And for 20 years, I had no warrior. I was the warrior myself. And she always worried, but she always would pray me in, she told me. And one time going to Texas, because when they flood out there, it can go 12 feet, just like nothing, because of the planes. And I got there and was driving. It's 2.5 hours from San Antonio. And I got to where it had the waterway. And she parted the water for the car to come through every time I come to a flooded area. And she got me there. And, she was a beloved woman of the people. She said 2,000 years ahead of her time. And she was. But we had something to finish, together, and the area and everything. And the knowledge she helped me remember is incredible. And that's the part we need somebody to bring forth so that we can remember again. And by being part of the presence of the vibration and stuff, I saw people who were blind that could see again, people that were in wheelchairs that could walk again, just cancer that didn't have it anymore. She was a remarkable healer. And if you, in a once in a lifetime, get to meet someone like that again, it's unbelievable. Then you understand the medicine and know what you're walking towards. So there's many areas that are going to come. You will see me in dream time from now on, because I'll be present. And know that I'm walking towards that way. I'm going to find my way there.